your sister Olivia de Havilland having done anything warm or kind to you
in my childhood.
Yeah.
One of the most important things about getting older is being able to go back with a forgiving heart and understanding they did the best they could.
They dazzled audiences on screen, flaunted their last names like crowns, and graced the covers of movie magazines together. But what fans didn't know was that behind the camera, the tension was real. Some of Hollywood's most iconic stars weren't just related, they were rivals, enemies, and sometimes even strangers under the same roof. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on shocking family feuds that rocked the golden age of Hollywood, because when it came to fame, even blood wasn't safe. 1. Olivia de Havilland versus Joan Fontaine, the sister war. Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine weren't just Oscar-winning actresses, they were real-life sisters. But from childhood, the tension was simmering. They grew up in a strict household where competition was fierce. Joan once said that Olivia never let her forget who was older, or better, and when they both entered Hollywood, that rivalry only escalated. The peak? The 1942 Academy Awards. Both were nominated for Best Actress. When Joan won for Suspicion, Olivia refused to congratulate her. Cameras caught the frosty moment. No hug, no smile, just ice. But it didn't stop there. They reportedly argued about everything from who got their mother's attention to who wore what at premieres. And when their mother passed away in 1975, Olivia didn't even tell Joan until the funeral had already passed. Their feud lasted a lifetime. In separate interviews, they referred to each other as the other one. When Joan died in 2013 at age 96, Olivia, still alive at the time, simply said, "I have no comment."
Things go a little bad nowadays. You go out and get yourself an ism and you're in business.
2. Lionel versus John Barrymore, the Battle of the Barrymores. The Barrymores were considered the first royal family of American acting. Lionel, John, and Ethel all made their mark, but the relationship between Lionel and John was more about resentment than respect. John was the heartthrob, the wild one, a legendary drinker, a stage genius, and the original great profile. Lionel, on the other hand, was more disciplined, more methodical, and deeply committed to his craft. He disapproved of John's wild ways and felt the Barrymore name was being dragged through the mud. It didn't help that John mocked Lionel's physical disability, a result of a hip injury, behind his back. The brothers acted together in a few films, but they often refused to rehearse scenes together. Their rivalry was never explosive, but it was cold, calculated, and laced with years of resentment. John died of cirrhosis in 1942, and Lionel didn't attend the funeral. Instead, he gave a quiet donation to a theatre in his brother's name, but never spoke of him again.
To be, especially when it's calm and peaceful like it is today, but when it gets rough, it socks you right there.
3. Douglas Fairbanks Sr. and Jr., A Legacy of Distance. Douglas Fairbanks Sr. was the original movie star. Athletic, charming, and bold, he practically invented the action hero. But his relationship with his son, Douglas Jr., was complicated, and at times, distant. Fairbanks Sr. divorced Jr.'s mother when the boy was only 9, leaving him to grow up mostly away from his father. When he did spend time with him, it was formal, more like meetings than bonding. In interviews, Douglas Jr. spoke with a mixture of reverence and sadness. He once said, "My father was my idol, but he didn't know how to be a father." When Jr. entered acting, he had to carve his own path. His father offered little support. Even after Jr. became a respected actor in his own right, people still referred to him as Little Doug. Their relationship remained strained until Fairbanks Sr.'s death in 1939. And even then, Jr. admitted he didn't feel entirely welcome at the funeral.
I didn't mean to come inside, believe me. I walked through the village and past the house. Then I saw Brian.
4. Lana Turner and Cheryl Crane, A Bond Broken by Scandal. Lana Turner was one of MGM's most glamorous stars, an icon of beauty and scandal. But no script could have predicted what happened in 1958. Her daughter, Cheryl Crane, just 14 years old, killed Lana's boyfriend, Johnny Stompanato, a known mob associate, during a domestic fight. Cheryl claimed she was protecting her mother. The courts believed her, and it was ruled justifiable homicide. But nothing about their lives was ever the same. Behind the media circus, Cheryl was sent away to reform school. Lana buried herself in work, and though they occasionally appeared in public as a united front, Cheryl would later say their bond was never truly repaired. In her memoir, Cheryl described her childhood as chaotic, glamorous, and lonely. Lana, for her part, rarely spoke about the incident in public. It was a tragedy that turned a mother-daughter relationship into a lifetime of emotional distance.
On the stage, but on my mother's side, the Drew family have been on the stage in an unbroken line for over 1,000 years and days in England.
5. Ethel Barrymore, the resentful sister. While her brothers battled each other in Hollywood, Ethel Barrymore dominated the stage. She was the critical darling of the family, the one who craved respect over fame. But even Ethel wasn't free from resentment. She once said, "My brothers wanted applause. I wanted a career. Though she starred in several films, including None But the Lonely Heart with Cary Grant, she always felt typecast and overshadowed by her brother's bigger personalities. She was particularly dismissive of John's flamboyant lifestyle and often avoided Barrymore family reunions. In her final years, Ethel remained outspoken about the shallowness of Hollywood, saying, "I acted for the audience, not the camera."
The story gets me, and the way it's photographed gets me, and it scares me. You know, I remember getting very scared of those monkeys that flew.
6. Judy Garland versus Liza Minnelli, a star in her shadow. Judy Garland was one of the most beloved stars of her time, but behind the curtain, her personal life was turbulent, especially when it came to her daughter, Liza Minnelli. As a child, Liza grew up in the shadow of Garland's fame and her struggles. Addiction, hospitalizations, and financial instability shaped Liza's upbringing. She wasn't just Garland's daughter, she was often her caretaker. But as Liza launched her own career, comparisons were inevitable. When she won the Oscar for Cabaret, critics called her the new Judy Garland. Privately, the attention stung. Garland reportedly feared being replaced by her daughter, while Liza tried to distance herself from the chaos she was born into. Their relationship was full of love, but fractured by fame, resentment, and emotional wounds neither had time to heal. After Garland's death in 1969, Liza would later say, "I lost my mother, but in many ways, I never really had her."
Both Jane and Peter went through what is known as a classic rebellion, when a child decides to go.
7. Henry Fonda versus Jane Fonda, a family divided. To the public, Henry Fonda represented quiet strength and moral certainty. To his daughter Jane, he was a mystery, distant, cold, and unreachable. Jane craved connection, but Henry, a product of old-school Hollywood, struggled to express emotion. Their disconnect only widened as Jane embraced activism, protest, and controversy, most notably her infamous trip to North Vietnam during the war. Henry was horrified. He felt Jane's political image was a stain on the Fonda name, and yet the deeper wounds were personal. Jane often spoke of growing up without affection, of a father who barely said, "I love you." Ironically, their final collaboration brought the truth to light. In On Golden Pond, their on-screen conflict mirrored decades of silence between them. It was the first time Jane felt truly seen by her father. Weeks later, Henry Fonda passed away. They never fully reconciled, but that one film became their last conversation.
We did Dracula, and it seemed to me during Dracula I had high hopes that people would...
8. Orson Wells versus Chris Wells, The Forgotten Child. Orson Wells was a genius, a cinematic revolutionary, but to his daughter Chris, he was something else entirely, a ghost. Chris Wells spent much of her life chasing the attention of a father who always had other priorities. He'd appear unexpectedly, dazzle with charm and stories, then vanish for years without a word. In her memoir, In My Father's Shadow, Chris reveals the painful truth of being ignored by a man celebrated for his vision. He could direct Citizen Kane, but not a conversation with his own child. Their final falling out came when she challenged him, refusing to play along with the image he wanted to maintain. She wrote, "He belonged to the world, but never to me." For all his brilliance, Orson Wells left behind a daughter who never stopped feeling like an extra in his life's production. Hollywood is built on illusion, on fantasy, on make-believe. But for these stars, the real drama wasn't in the scripts they performed. It was in the homes they left, the siblings they battled, the parents they couldn't forgive. Family feuds may not make the credits, but they left scars deeper than any role ever could. Because in the golden age of Hollywood, the spotlight didn't always reveal the truth. Sometimes it hid it.